Let's go 360 over here at a McLaren 720S at dealership down here in St. Petersburg, Stimmet. We go with the best salesman, Matt Jones. Here, we're just going to look at this 720S. It's the silver. Door goes up all nice, right?
Okay, and so this is the 720S from McLaren, of course. Their big supercar. The new Artura is coming, but of course it will be one step down from this. This has the 4-litre, 8-cylinder twin-turbo, supposed to be producing 710 horsepower and 568 pounds of torque. However, they lied. It does create more than that. Several magazines and some of the YouTube guys have measured the car at close to 700 horsepower to the wheels. So of course it would be a lot more, therefore, at the engine. She's very light. We've climbed over the carbon fibre frame to get into the car. And that's the big innovation with the McLaren. Of course, we invented the carbon fibre chassis back in 1979. A long, long time ago. In 1981 it came into racing, and halfway through that season pretty much every team had a carbon frame. So it was off our patent. And it really is an innovation that's changed the automobile, especially in racing, because it's so light. Super strong, super light. The carbon fibre frame in this car starts at the firewall. It goes down, it's the full floor, goes up over the 19-gallon fuel tank behind us. It's the side sills, and it's actually up in the frames of the A-pillars up here and this centre section here. And that entire, and the rear window supports as well. That entire frame weighs about 185 pounds. The lower section is just 165 pounds. That's insane. To have the structure of the car only being that light makes it, of course, incredibly strong, but doesn't, and you got, or let's say 750 horsepower or more, pushing such a light frame, it just makes for a crazy car. This is the coupe, so she's about 3,170 pounds as we're sitting in it today. The transmission's a 7-speed dual clutch, and it really is incredible. Very fun that it's 2/100ths of a second into the next gear, and that's not transitioning, that's actually engaged. So it really is incredible performance, and it's the reason cars went from 0 to 60 in 4 seconds to 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds, is the transmission. You and I just can't change gear manually fast enough to get 2.5 seconds, you just can't. It's made for an amazing car. So we're cruising at the moment I'll push the little active button here. This is my active dynamics panel. So the top one, H for handling, is my suspension and traction control. The bottom one, P underneath here, for powertrain. That's engine, gearbox, and exhaust. So as we go through the drive, I'll be adjusting these gauges and dials. It has 10 modes effectively once we add launch control to that. Launch control would be, we'll do that in a minute, but that will be the fastest way of accelerating because it modulates the torque so it doesn't let the wheels spin, so therefore you can go off as fast as you possibly can. A little over 5 seconds to 100 miles an hour. It is quite an experience. We got a bit of traffic, so we'll get away from that. But in this comfort mode, I mean, she's smooth. We're going up through the gears. We turned the corner in 3rd gear, we're already in 7th. So it's amazingly smooth. You'll hear them, you don't really feel them. You feel the low ones. First to second, you'll feel that because first is such a short gear to get the thing going quick, On my main display, everything has gone green now since we've been driving, meaning the oil and coolant have got to temperature. Therefore, it'll allow me to launch the car. If one of those is blue, which it was when I first started the car won't launch. So up here, my little aero light is on. And aero means that the wing on the back of the car has stood up. I don't know if you can see back there, but if I turn that light off, the wing disappears. I turn it back on, and the wing comes back up. It raises 9 inches vertically, but then under braking it will go almost vertical, which squashes these big 305 tyres on the rear back into the ground, giving us just unbelievable braking. The braking, frankly, is more impressive than the acceleration is. It is, it's pretty crazy. From 125 miles an hour, she's over 30 feet shorter than a 488 Ferrari. 30 feet in braking that's a lot of difference from 100 miles an hour. You know, that's a lot.
Oh yeah.
All right. See those turbochargers whistling up there. They're starting to spin up as we're increasing the power. Clicking down the paddles there. The second gear will turn in here. And no body sway. The suspension is hydraulic. And it allows vertical movement, but not side to side. What a brilliant idea. Allowing vertical movement keeps the car comfortable, but not side to side. Makes us go through a corner at some pretty crazy cornering forces. It is an amazing vehicle. So we're going to put it into the manual mode. So I'll push this little button down here. Now on my main display it shows M for manual. I'll put us into sport mode here and sport mode here. What that gives us is basically different settings where we have a much more aggressive throttle, and the suspension now is about 30% stiffer than it was before. That's a big adjustment for just one mode. Like if I put it in the suspension into track, it's 65% stiffer than it was in comfort. That's a huge adjustment. Supercars don't normally adjust that much. Alright, let's pour it on a bit here, and we'll flip around and do a launch and have some fun. Super aggressive transmission in the sport mode. It's not aggressive in track. This jolt that you were feeling there as I was downshifting isn't there in comfort and it isn't there in track. It's just engineered into the car for fun. So it's kind of alright, we'll put everything into track. That will fall my little display away here. Falling the display away gives us some really theatre, some cool stuff in the car. Just gives me gear selection, revs, and speed. So I'm going to pause right here. We'll launch it and have a bit of fun. Alright, so I'm going to use both feet. I've got my left foot on the brake. I'm going to press launch, and the car will tell me what to do. Boost building, boost ready, and I go. Unbelievable power. It really is an incredible car. Completely flat here again. The camber of the road is all wrong, but she just comes out like a missile. I'll lift off here. I've got a guy on a bike. Don't want to scare him to death. An amazing machine.
Oh yeah, that exhaust system is beautiful. Just hear it whistle.
Get to hear the turbochargers more. Because she has turbos, it's quieter than like a Lamborghini might be, because they don't have any turbos, they're straighter exhausts. This one, the turbocharger is on the exhaust system, and it really changes the way that that you hear it and the involvement of that. It's much more mechanical sounding here. See that wing standing up as I release the brake, it goes back down.
I can only imagine what that 765 is like.
It's pretty intense. It is, yeah. It's the second gear of this car, and it just pushes you so hard. It really disorients you almost, you know.
And it's just crazy. There's zero, like you don't hear the tires.
Yeah, no slipping. It's jolted a little bit there from first into second, but generally it's pretty amazing grip it takes, yeah. So I'll do almost an emergency stop for us here. We're doing 45 miles an hour. You're hanging on to some stuff because I'm going to stop really hard here. How it scrubs the speed, but no twist. A lot of cars will twist when you do that. This thing doesn't, because that wing stands up and squashes the car down, particularly at high speed. It really takes the speed off at an alarming rate. It does, yeah. There's nothing like it.
The brakes are, that's amazing. car, yeah, I mean, you just feel how it hugs the road, no slippage.
It's wild. Hard right-hander here in third gear. Just pour it on. There's no slip, no slide, Hold up some traffic there, so it'll give us a chance to relax and breathe for a moment. It is an intense vehicle. And that's where the money goes. That's why they cost so much. But on the other hand, the Lamborghini, the Huracan, and the Performante, and the 480 or F8 Tributo now are the same money. But this is just intense. Because of the carbon frame, I'm 300 to 500 pounds lighter than those two cars. It just gives a different experience. If it had the same power, it would be different, but having more power than both of those really gives the car a unique sensation at this price point.
So as far as like with the 488s, we were talking, it's like the same with the Pista?
Yeah, Pista, again, 710 horsepower, 568 pounds of torque, which is what this was supposed to be. But again, McLaren lied. Yeah.
Why would you give out your real numbers?
They probably do that to mess with Ferrari. Yeah. You might notice this leather isn't black. It's a colour called cassis. It's a black cherry and black mixed together. And it is just different. Everyone has black. So it's we order this interior a lot, actually, because it's kind of classy without being too shouty. I love the silver stitching that it has. It just matches the exterior of this car, the blade silver paint, very well.
Is this one convertible or no?
This is a coupe, so then we get the glass windows above our head as an option, yeah.
That's way cool.
Alright, let's wake it up one more time. On the road, this thing is pretty intense.
It's amazing.
Quite a car. It's comfortable to be in too. I mean, we're in track mode here. In the manual mode, I'm in second gear, and I'm going to lift my foot off everything. And it glides. It doesn't go, it doesn't lurch around. The transmission is very advanced to give it some glide. Steering also, it is a hydraulic system, but they've added an electric assistance for very low down, so it's not so it's not very heavy as you're moving. I can move it very light. But it still gives an amazing feel that is unique in the cars today, because everything on this parking lot except the McLaren's has an electric steering rack. Electric is faster, it reacts faster, but you got no feel. And that's what a sports car is about, hopefully.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh, a fabulous car it is. It's nuts.
Yeah, it's an amazing machine.
One of my favorite systems the car has is the variable drift control mode. What variable drift control gives us is a control of the traction control that's just not available in other cars, really. Mercedes-Benz in their GTR Pro have an adaptive traction control, which is a dial. But on the screen here, if I'm in sport and sport or higher, so one of them can be in track, but neither one can be in comfort. If I push stability control one time here, nothing happens. But up here it did. It says ESC-DYN, dynamic mode. So then I'll touch this here, and hit OK, and that will then go into the variable drift control mode. And that's a poor name for it. What it's really doing is giving you full throttle whenever you want it. So the car is here, and there's a little blue dot for 3 degrees there. If I slide this out, I don't know if you can see it there, there we are. If I slide this around, look, you can see the car's changing inside the width of this racetrack it's on. If I go all the way out, it's 36 degrees of drift. That's over a full turn. You better be awake. The guys on the Grand Tour, they tried that and they spun the car around. So what I like is about here, 4 or 5 little pips. That's about 12 degrees of drift, 3 degrees each pip. So that's about there. That's not much movement, but it'll give me full throttle whenever I want it. And that's what makes the car fun. Coming out of those corners we were doing, we had all the traction control on. Now it comes out harder because we've got full throttle available, and that's really amazing. What I mean by that, supercars don't give you full power until the wheels are straight. Now it will. Now it will. What's cool is I'm in the track mode here, and you can see Sport is kind of in a shadow. It's dark because we're in track. If I turn this one back to Sport, this will slide up to the other one. And what's fun about that is you can have them set at different levels for whatever mood you're in, and then you can just flick back and forth and reduce it or add it and have some fun without having to stop and mess around with it or try and tweak it as you're driving. It's a much more precise system.
That's amazing. Yeah, McLaren they definitely know what they're doing.
Yeah, it's just racing. You know, they've been racing at the highest level since 1963. But even before that, 1959, Mr. McLaren himself was racing, and the race at Sebring, there was a Formula One race in 1959 at Sebring that was supposed to be at Watkins Glen, and there was something they had to move it to Sebring just for that 1 year. Bruce McLaren won the race in a Coventry Coupe car, and he was only 22 years old. That record for age held from 1959 to 2002 when Fernando Alonso won a race about 3 months younger. So I think Bruce McLaren was a pretty cool dude. He died in 1970, unfortunately, but I think he'd be happy with what they've done with his name.
Oh,
you
yeah,
know,
for sure.
to apply these amazing road cars, which is what he wanted. He wanted road cars. And he did have one. He had a converted Can-Am car. The M6 GT was a converted Can-Am car, which had to be just insane back in the time when cars were 80 horsepower. That one was 350. It must have been totally nuts, yeah. Really cool stuff.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Thank you.